Shalom. Before I begin this video, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. They continually rule very well to this very day. Let us continually feeding the flock through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. And also shalom to the hopeful elect that is also laboring this work, giving your diligence to make your calling and election sure, in faith, in truth and sincerity, and also in all charity. Now, the topic of this video, I believe I'm going to entitle it as Shameful Spewing has increased. Shameful spewing has increased, okay? And this is pertaining onto recent occurrence in Chicago. You had a statue, and really not only just Chicago, but also other statues as well, showing so-called the leaders of the so-called founding fathers of America, and one of them being Christopher Columbus mainly, and other tyrants just like him, because it's well documented that Christopher Columbus and the other so-called founding fathers, they raped, robbed, and murdered their way into leadership, into building up America as you see today. All right. And case in point, Christopher Columbus, of course, if you go into his history, all right, if you do research on him, basically he lived a life of murdering, all right, and almost through him, and also others as well, like Andrew Jackson later on in history, others as well, during the building the foundation for America, they almost committed genocide, man. All right, almost. Okay, because during that time it was a lot of the northern tribes of the nation of Israel, which are the so-called Native American Indians, which are the Gadites, the tribe of Gad and the tribe of Reuben, and also not only that, the tribe of Ephraim, and others as well, the tribe of Manasseh. The northern tribes that were here, they were called the Native American Indians, the so-called Native American Indians. They were being slaughtered during that time. Okay, and that's why now you're hearing about, more prominently, now you're hearing about the slavery, the enslavement of the so-called Native American Indians, the northern tribes. That's being put in the forefront right now. Okay, because primarily you'll hear about the enslavement of the transatlantic slave trade concerning the so-called Negroes, because of course, the so-called Negroes are the tribe of Judah, in which that's the head tribe. So of course that's going to get more of a spotlight or shine in history. But now what you're seeing is what's starting to be pronounced is the enslavement of the so-called Native American Indians that were here. That's being starting to be put in the spotlight now. Okay, because that was a time to where, that during that enslavement, that's rarely talked about. Okay, but it happened. Okay, which again was done by who? The so-called white man, which in this case, Christopher Columbus and others, man. All right, so that's why you're starting to see statues of these so-called founding fathers, these leaders that have set up America, starting to be pulled down. And the article that I have here is from Fox News, all right, which is a mainstream outlet. Okay, and this one says Chicago removes Columbus statue for Grant Park in dead of night, which is from reports, because now the statue of Columbus and also other statues as well that you're starting to see being pulled down, these are not just your regular statues. These are statues which are showing the image of not only Christopher Columbus but also Andrew Jackson, and also other generals as well that was living during the time when America was first being established. And during that time, again, you had the slaughtering of the northern tribes, and you had also the enslavement of the northern tribes and the slaughtering and enslavement of the southern tribes, the so-called Negroes, so-called West Indians, so-called Haitians. They were all in captivity, especially the northern tribes. Okay, so that's why you're starting to see this, the statue starting to be pulled down, man. All right, and really these statues are a form of what the scriptures deem as a shameful spewing. Okay, let me go ahead and see if I can get that. All right, because the shameful spewing is the what you're seeing as far as the wickedness of Esau or Edom, which is the true biblical nationality of the so-called white man. Okay, that's what it means by shameful spewing. In other words, that wickedness is starting to be uncovered, and the history that has been kept back and covered, so to speak, is now being revealed and now is being shown towards the public, and the public are responding to that. Okay, and by trying to bring down the statues of these different Edomites, that's by them reacting to that shameful spewing. All right, because it is a shameful spewing on Esau's part. Okay, because that's a history that they rather not talk about. They rather tell you to forget about it. Okay, but guess what? The Most High hasn't forgotten. All right, the Most High, which his name is Yahweh, he hasn't forgotten about their history. All right, even his son Yahweh Shai, who these people inwardly call Jesus, he hasn't forgotten. Okay, like the scriptures say, the Most High requireth that which is past. Okay, and he's going to require that at the hands of Esau. All right, through his destruction. So I'm going to go ahead and get Habakkuk, the second chapter. This is at the 16th verse. It says, thou art filled with shameful glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. Right. So to have your foreskin uncovered, that's a shameful thing. All right. To have your nakedness uncovered, man. All right. So to have your nakedness uncovered, your shame is being seen before everybody. Okay. And with when your foreskin is uncovered, right, that means every single person, the nations, all right, even the tribes of Israel are starting to see that, man. And really, to be honest with you, when you go into these different protests that are taking place, these are BLM protests, and predominantly the ones that are conducting those protests are who? Edomites. Okay, I forgot. I think it was in one in every 6 person is an Israelite or so-called Negro, a person of color, so to speak. I think it's at 1 in every 6 person or 1 in every 7 person that's there during those protests. All right. So the rest of them, all right, the 5 people out of 6 are Edomites that are primarily doing that. All right. So Esau himself, these Edomites, these the ones at the bottom of the totem pole, those Edomites, the Joy Six-Pack Edomites, they're the ones that's actually doing that. All right, that's pulling down the statues and basically causing chaos. All right, and we know what that's about. Okay, but again, it says, "Let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahshua's hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory." All right, you see that? So it says, "Shameful spewing shall be on thy glory." Okay. Now the shameful spewing again is the history which has been kept back for so long. All right, and now since Esau or Edom is spewing out that history, is spewing out the atrocities which he have done. All right, now it's a shame to these Edomites, and now that's the reason why you're seeing these Edomites pulling down these images. Okay, and that's through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahshai. Okay, Now, moving on from there, I'm gonna get the book of Isaiah. Right, it's book of Isaiah, chapter 47, is verse 1. It says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne. O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." All right, so this is concerning the virgin daughter of Babylon. So when you speak about Babylon, you're speaking of Esau in the same breath. All right, pursuant to the book of Psalms, where it says, "O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed." Okay, which again is pursuant unto Edom as well. Okay, because Edom, or the Edomites, are the ones who have set this place up, which is through rape, robbery, and murder. All right. So it says, "O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." All right, you see. So now this place being no more called tender and delicate, because why? Because again, that shameful spewing is starting to be seen on their glory. Okay, because America at one point was glorious. All right, or was seen as glorious. Okay, because of the legislations and the way of living of the people. But now it's seen as an abomination. Okay, and the way that the abomination was to be seen in that way is through the spirit and power of Yahweh by way of his prophets. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna move on to the next scripture. I'm gonna try to get through these as quick as possible. Book of Psalms, chapter 64, and this is at verse 8. It says, "So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away." All right. So the Lord is making their own tongue to fall upon themselves, because even their own nation, the nation of Edom, all right, again, the ones that are lower on the totem pole of the nation of Edom, they're the ones that's actually crying out about the injustice that has been done to the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right, that's their own tongue to fall upon themselves. Okay, their own nation is calling out their own nation. All right. So now it's Satan against Satan. And like the scriptures say, what does it say about a house being against itself? It can't stand. All right, so that's why America is crumbling right now, as you see. Okay, and the nation of Edom is falling. Okay, now move on from there. Get the book of Nahum. So like in Nahum chapter 3. This is at verse starting at verse 5. It says, "Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, Yahweh, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. And I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock." And that's right, because these other nations, it's not only is this being watched among the people here in America, but also the other nations are observing exactly what's going on here in America. All right, so America is now being a gazing stock. Now they're starting to see the friction that is going on here in America, and that's the friction between Jacob and Esau. Okay, and the Lord is casting that filth, or casting the filth upon America, in which it was filthy to begin with. Okay, but that filth is starting to be shown before all the people. Again, like I read back in Habakkuk, it says, "Let thy foreskin be uncovered." Okay, showing the shame of America. All right, and the shame of these Edomites. Okay, now move on from there. Get the book of Isaiah chapter 14. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 16. It says, "They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms?" Okay, and that's the point. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdom? So that, right now we're seeing this man as nothing of worth, man. All right, I'm talking about the bankers of Edom, the higher ups, consisting of the banking families, the Rothschilds, the Oppenheimers, and so on and so forth. Okay. So this is the man that you see, all right, which is Lucifer. Like if you go further up in the scripture, it speaks about Lucifer that are fallen from heaven, in which Lucifer means light bearer. Okay, these are the light bearers on the left hand side. Okay, so right now we're literally looking at this man like, is this the man that did all this? This man who was a base man according to the scriptures, in which he is a base man. He's the lowest of the low. All right, his history goes back to being reduced to being cavemen. Okay, if you go into the scriptures, I believe it's Job the 30th chapter. All right, it speaks about that. Verse 17, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. Okay, move on from there. I'm gonna get one last scripture. All right, it's the book of Isaiah chapter 5. This is at verse 14. It said, therefore hell hath enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. And that's what you're starting to see right now. Okay, because hell right now has enlarged herself to meet the so-called white man. All right, which hell represents the grave. Okay, it's not a literal place that you go down to where somebody or entity with a red jumpsuit and the pitchfork poke you all day while you're getting burnt. Okay, it represents the grave. It represents the lower state. So this lower state, the grave, has enlarged itself for the coming of Esau. All right. And again, like it says here, it says, in their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoices shall descend right into it. Okay. And the lofty looks and the proud are being humbled. Okay. Because when Yahweh through his son Yahweh Shai returns here on the planet Earth, guess what, man? There's going to be no more of that prideful look. There's going to be no more of the pride of America. All right, because these people are going to look upon the glory of Yahweh Shai, and they're going to be sorrowful, man. All right, and they're going to be losing it. Okay. And it's really this scripture here is really gonna be to its fullest extent when the kingdom is established and that Israel set back in rulership over all the nations. Okay, and Esau is gonna be reduced to being bondmen and bondwomen, just how we were, and they're gonna face twice as much as the punishment that we received. Okay, so with that, I'm going to end off on that note. Lord's will, this was edifying to the elect of the nation of Israel. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem El Shai, Ba'ashem Kadosh. Give honors to the apostles, the elders, a great millstone that grew well to this day. Shalom, peace and safety and salutations to the whole elect. That is also continuing in this work diligently, showing your faith by pushing this ministry and this gospel to the members of the whole elect in faith, in truth and sincerity, and all charity. And with that, I'm going to say shalom.